When you think about chemistry in general, and you want to know if a reaction is going to occur or not, there are two components that you need to consider to answer that question. And the one we're going to look at in this chapter primarily is thermodynamics. And thermodynamics is really powerful. It's basically a way to predict, like a yes or a no, if a reaction will occur. And it's very, very important to know how everything goes together. And that's what we're going to focus on. But in the back of your mind, I also want you to remember the kinetics chapter from Chemistry 222. Kinetics is basically the study of how long a reaction takes to complete. And just because you have a reaction which will occur, it doesn't mean that it won't happen like today or in a minute or even in an hour. It might take millions and millions of years. So you have to know the timeline associated with the thermodynamics quantities we're going to get. We'll see some examples of some reaction. Thermodynamics says, yes, this will occur, but the kinetics will be like millions upon millions of years. And of course, as human beings, that's not going to work for most of us. So anyway, these are just the important things to consider. So thermodynamics and kinetics, both important in what we're going to be talking about. In Chemistry 222, we talked about kinetics, and this was an example of a reaction diagram where reactants were on the left and products were on the right. We talked about how reactants in this case were lower in energy than the products. This is an endothermic reaction because you have to go uphill, if you will, from reactants to products. But more importantly, I want to remind you about the difference between where the reactants start and the top of the little hump right there, and that's the energy of activation. And energy of activation is an energy cost that all reactions have to provide, if you will. And the energy of activation is generally what makes reactions go fast and slow. So if you have a very slow reaction, then that means the energy of activation will be really high. On the other hand, if you have a relatively small energy of activation, then the reaction will be very fast. Now, going from the reaction to from the reactants to the products, that little arrow right there is roughly what the energy of activation would be. And we gave it a symbol E sub A. And again, I don't write very well on iPad, so sorry it's so sloppy. But anyway, that is something that all of these reactions will have to do. Even the reactions which get a thumbs up, yes, it's going to occur, we still have to pay that energy of activation. And keep that in the back of your mind. A little bit of flashback from Chemistry 222. In Chemistry 222, when we talked about thermodynamics, we did discuss the first law of thermodynamics, which basically says that energy can't be created or destroyed. And so the overall energy of the universe has to always equal the system plus the surroundings. And so you're not ever going to create energy. You're not ever going to destroy energy. Energy can be distributed through heat and work, and chemists are much more interested in heat, so we kind of ignored work most of the time. And if the heat is transferred at constant pressure, which is almost always, this is what enthalpy is, delta H. And we're going to talk about delta H here in a little bit, definitely. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Now in Chem 222, more or less what we said is that if you have a reaction which gives off energy, if it's exothermic, those kind of reactions are the ones that will occur. And more or less, if you have an endothermic reaction, i.e. you have to add energy, those reactions are less likely to occur. But we're going to expand on that big time now as we go through this section. Enthalpy is generally given in units of kilojoules per mole. If it's exothermic, that means your delta H value will be negative. And if it's endothermic, your delta H will be positive. So literally, if you have a delta H of negative 48 kilojoules per mole, that's exothermic because of the negative. If you had a positive 48 kilojoules per mole, that would be endothermic. You'd have to add energy to make that happen. And in Chem 222, we talked about Hess's law. We talked about how to find the delta H of a reaction through summing up the delta H's of the products minus delta H of the reactants. We also talked about bond enthalpies when you have an average energy per bond, and you can do bonds broken minus bonds formed. So I'm going to assume now coming up that you're feeling pretty good about all this, but if you see any of these terms and you don't remember them, please let me know. I'm happy to help. These are the kind of things we will talk about in this section, and we'll see how it applies to this chapter. So thermodynamics asks if a reaction will occur under given conditions, all right? And what it's basically saying, if it's going to happen, is you end up with what's called a product-favored system, all right? Now, K is a symbol we'll use in the next chapter. K is going to stand for an equilibrium constant. You don't need to know that right now, but if you have a product favored system, then your K values will be greater than 1. So that's something to think about until the next chapter. Anyway, product favored systems are called spontaneous reactions, and spontaneous reactions mean that the reactants will go to product. So it's like a thumbs up if this reaction is going to go. Now, spontaneous doesn't mean like something with time. Like if I spontaneously said, hey, let's stop doing this lecture and go see a movie, which wouldn't be too hard to force me to do. But anyway, spontaneous just means it's going to occur. Your reactants will go to products. We still don't know anything about time. That's kinetics, all right? Spontaneous just means product favored. It will happen. Now, most product favored reactions are exothermic. They'll have negative enthalpy values, but there are some exceptions, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. A non-spontaneous reaction is going to be a reaction which doesn't go normally from reactants to products. And if it does go, it's going to require some energy to have it happen. So spontaneous means product favored, non-spontaneous means reactant favored. And all reactions, like I said, do require that energy of activation to take place. So it can happen. Everybody says, yes, this reaction is going to go, but you're still going to have to pay that energy of activation to make it actually happen. Spontaneity doesn't imply anything about time, all right? It just means that it's going to occur. It can be for fast reactions, but it can also be for slow reactions. Spontaneous process is something that's just going to happen, all right? Now, first law of thermodynamics doesn't predict if the reaction is going to be spontaneous. First law just says all the energy of the universe is a constant. You can't create or destroy energy. That's all the first law says, but you can also imagine there might be more than just a first law. We'll talk about those things in this chapter as well. So a spontaneous process, again, is just a reaction that will occur. And as an example of how this works, let's say I leave an iron nail outside and it rains. Well, that iron nail will start to turn rusty. All right, you can see the rust on the lower picture there and stuff beginning to form on the nail. That's a spontaneous reaction. It's going to occur. A non-spontaneous reaction would be that rusty nail going back to a regular nail, and that's probably not going to happen. Some reactions are spontaneous at one temperature and non-spontaneous at other temperatures. And a great example of this is ice solid water going to liquid water. And if the temperature of the system is above 0 Celsius, then your ice will spontaneously turn into liquid water. And you wouldn't expect at a warmer temperature for the liquid water to turn to ice. However, if you have a temperature which is less than 0 degrees Celsius, your liquid water will spontaneously turn to ice, and you wouldn't expect the solid ice to turn back to liquid water if you were at, say, minus 10 degrees Celsius. So these are some of the things that we'll deal with in this chapter. But we begin, spontaneous just means if the reaction will occur or not. It doesn't say how long it's going to take. That's kinetics. Diamond is a great example of a reaction which is thermodynamically favored to convert to graphite. Now, diamonds, as you know, are in jewelry and all kinds of stuff, and graphite is what we use for pencils. All right, graphite is like pencils, the lead in pencils, if you will. And obviously, diamonds are worth a lot more than pencils, so that might make people nervous. All right, so if diamond is thermodynamically ready to turn into graphite, i.e., diamond will spontaneously go into graphite, it might be tempting to go sell all of your diamonds. Oh my gosh, Dr. Russell said our diamonds are going to degrade into graphite, which is worthless. No, don't do that. Because again, spontaneous just means it's going to occur, but it doesn't say how long it's going to occur. And diamonds to graphite is going to be a millions and millions of years kind of process. It is not kinetically favored to go into graphite. It will eventually, but it's going to take a long, long time. So again, spontaneous, this is a spontaneous reaction, but it's not going to happen in anybody's lifetime, so don't go selling your diamonds or anything like that. Paper burning, or unfortunately forest fires, that's also a product-favored reaction. All these kind of things are ready to go. When they burn, they turn into CO2 and water. This is definitely a product-favored and spontaneous reaction. These reactions are also kinetically favored. I mean, they're going to go. You put a match next to a piece of paper, and it's gone, all right? And unfortunately, as we're experiencing in Oregon in the summers, our forest fires are really bad. This is another example of a reaction which is spontaneous. It's going to occur. So Diamonds to graphite and paper burning, those are both spontaneous reactions. But obviously, the burning of paper and wood is very, very fast. Kinetically, it's favored. Diamonds going to graphite is not kinetically favored. It's going to take millions and millions of years. However, it will occur after a while, and that's what spontaneous means. Most of the time, spontaneous processes are irreversible, all right? So you can't go back to the original reactant. It's basically a one-way direction, one-way street, all right? Unless you start playing with temperature and you have very specific things, it usually isn't going to happen. You do have there are some examples around of reversible processes. You can go back and forth. So for example, batteries that recharge, that would be an example of reversible process. However, if a process is spontaneous in one direction, it basically has to be non-spontaneous in the opposite direction. So that car down there on the left-hand side that's all nice and white and it's been really well taken care of, it will spontaneously turn after a while into the rusty car there on the right. And of course, that's not as much fun to look at as the nice car. It is a non-spontaneous reaction to go from the rusty car back to the beautiful white car there. That's not going to be very likely. And that's kind of the idea here.